How's it going, everybody? I am ZBilbs and I'm back here once again with another metal ranking video. Now, if you want to skip right into the video, then go to this timestamp right here. If you want to hear some quick preamble before I get going, then stick right here because I've got a few things to say before I kick off this list. Now, if you're one of my subscribers or you watched some of my videos, then you should know this is my first video in like 8 or 9 months. So I wanted some quick explanation of where I've been and then where this channel is going in the future, hopefully. So either way, this last summer I planned to do lots of videos. Unfortunately, I took a job at a camp, so I was not able to listen to nor make any videos, which is a shame. And then I had a crazy semester this last fall, so I've had no time to make videos, but this is just a fun hobby anyways, so I just do it when I can. But thank you to people who have stuck in there and continued watching my videos. I've somehow gained subscribers in these 9 months despite not making any videos, so huge thanks to whoever watches this. It really means a lot. As for where I'm going from here, I'm hoping to try to get video out from time to time. I'm on Christmas vacation right now, so I'm hoping to make a handful of videos and then kind of space them out so we've got some content moving forward. But I'm excited to get back to videos. Right now, this is my end of year ranking series, so I'm going to go through and I'm be obviously in this video doing my top 10 favorite metal albums of the year. It's top 10, not top 15. This year I couldn't listen to quite as many albums as I did last year, so this list is definitely more limited in scope, but you know, it is what it is. It's just my list, and I have certain preferences. Like, if you know me, you know power metal is my favorite subgenre, so there'll be probably more power metal albums than your average metal fan. Other videos coming up, I'm going to do my top 25 songs. I'm going to do my disappointing albums from the year. I've got some band rankings hopefully coming up. I'm going to do Enslaved and Blind Guardian. I might do a favorite video games of the year, so stay tuned for lots of content there. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into this list. So let's start off, before I get into the top 10, I'm going to start with a couple honorable mentions. Also, as I already said, I didn't listen to quite as many albums this year as I would have liked. And what that means for me is that this is not going to be as comprehensive of a list as most other metal YouTubers out there. I didn't listen to 100 albums this year. I listened to a handful during the year, and during the end of the year, I kind of did a quick search looking at what were some of the highest rated albums of the year. I looked at some of the best power metal albums of the year, because power metal is my favorite subgenre, and there honestly ended up not being quite as many power metal albums that I liked as I thought there would be, because I think I only have 3 total in the top 10 of power metal albums. But yeah, either way, just my personal opinion, so let's get into it with some honorable mentions. Firstly, I've got Mosaic by Theocracy. I'd never heard of these guys before, but this was a solid power metal album. And also another good power metal album was Tales from the North by Bloodbound. This was also another decent one. And then my last honorable mention, I've got Exile by Ne Obliviscaris. This is just... I can't even describe what type of music it is, but it's very well produced and it's very well done. But those are my honorable mentions. Now let's start with number 10, and I would say this is the only one on my list where it's like I don't quite love it. It's a pretty solid album. I didn't listen to too many albums that blew my mind. I would say we got to get to like the top 5 or 6 before it's like the really, really great albums. But this is still a good, fun one. And that is Glory Hammer with Return to the Kingdom of Fife. Now, this is a very interesting one. When it comes to power metal, like, although I love power metal very dearly, I am very particular on what kinds of power metal I like. I generally like a more gruff edge to the power metal, like the sing-songy, happy-go-lucky fairy tale power metal is not really my thing, which is why Twilight Force isn't on here. And so, like, I tried listening to the Twilight Force album. I couldn't get into it at all. A handful of other power metal albums that you're probably expecting to be on here, I couldn't get into it for whatever reason. Check out my most disappointing albums of the year list if you want to see my thoughts on those. But this one, for whatever reason, it was actually, I had a lot of fun with it. Unlike the Twilight Force album, even though it is super goofy and corny and just completely out there in all of its themes, it had a little bit more of an edge to it. It had some fun, just deep, chuggy riffs. The singer, I didn't mind. He didn't sound like a crazy, like, sing-song, like, da 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 da. Obviously there is a lot of stupid stuff on here, like what is it, Sword Lord of the Goblin Horde. Incredibly stupid, but I actually kind of like that song. The best song on this album, in my opinion, is Holy Flaming Hammer of Unholy Cosmic Frost, which is just so stupid. Some other good ones, Brothers of Krail, Fife Eternal, Keeper of Celestial Flame of Abernethy. So this is just a ridiculous album, but it was a lot of fun. I ended up just having a good time with it, and it stuck with me enough to put it at number 10. So moving on to number 9, I have got King Gizard and the Lizard Wizard with Petrodragonic Apocalypse and long subtitle. Now, I'd heard of these guys before listening to this album, but I had never really listened to any of their stuff. I think I tried to once, and I was like, this isn't even metal, this is weird. And apparently, they've done like 25 albums over the span of 10 years, and they do all sorts of different genres. So I was like, what even is this? But I was very surprised with how solid this album actually was. Overall, this album, it ends up feeling just like kind of a classic thrash metal album. And although I'm not the biggest into thrash, obviously I do like Metallica a lot, but if you know me, you know that I don't love Kill 'Em All as much as other people do. But there's just some really fun, creative, heavy, kind of industrial style riffs and stuff in here that was just a lot of fun. It's got this kind of just like gritty edge to it that really just stuck with me, and I was able to be like, yeah, like this is sick. Favorite songs from this album, Motor Spirit is definitely my favorite. Great way to open. Supercell is also great. Converge, with Witchcraft, Flamethrower. It's only 7 songs, but it's short, it's sweet, it's to the point, it's a lot of fun. So Petrodragonic Apocalypse, that's my number 9 pick. Coming in at number 8, this one is going to be a little bit controversial because I've got 72 Seasons by Metallica. Now, if you've seen my review and my ranking of Metallica videos, you're probably like, what the heck, 72 Seasons at number 8? I thought you didn't like that album. And the weird thing is, like, I'm in my review, I was like, yeah, this was a pretty big disappointment. And I still stick by that this was a disappointment, but at least it's a disappointment in terms of Metallica albums. I think I still hold on to that. I think it's their second worst album to date, but it's because Metallica has such great stuff, at least I love almost all of their discography, that this in comparison I think is a lot weaker. That being said, I still think this is a really solid album, and there's a lot of really great stuff on here. Their title track, 72 Seasons, is awesome. Lux Eterna is great. Shadows Follow, Screaming Suicide, If Darkness Had a Sun, just all really great Metallica songs that I'm definitely going to be returning to for years to come. Now, if they could have just cut some fat on here, like basically the rest of the songs I think are all forgettable, pointless songs. But I think the strength of what this album does have lifts it up and gets it high enough that I can put it on my top 10 list. But honestly, if I had done a more in-depth dive into the hundreds of thousands of metal albums that came out this year, there'd probably be no chance it'd be on a top 10 list. But I still a lot of fun with it. I love Metallica. So yeah, 72 Seasons, that's my number 8 pick. All right, moving on to number 7, I have got Dance Devil Dance by Avatar. This is another band I've been meaning to get to and rank their stuff. I've listened to about half of their discography, this album was actually the introduction to their stuff. I went back and listened to Hail the Apocalypse and all of that, so a lot of fun stuff in this band. It's super unique. It's like this weird kind of groove metal, but with all of this kind of experimental, I don't know, progressive even type of stuff, at least in this album for sure. But this is a really solid album. Some of my favorite songs of the year are on this. The Dirt I'm Buried In is the song that introduced me to this band, and I think it's absolutely excellent. Other favorite in this one, Valley of Disease, is really good. Dance Devil Dance is really good. There's some other solid ones. Chimp Mosh Pit, On the Beach. A really weird but kind of interesting one with Train. I think this one also, this album has similar problems to 72 Seasons, where it's got some really solid songs, but then the other half of it is kind of forgettable, kind of boring. If it could have cut out some of the bloat, it could have been an even better album, but the strength of the songs that are really good propel it high enough. So that's Dance Devil Dance at number 7. Moving on to number 6, I've got another power metal album, and that is Camelot with The Awakening. Now, I had never listened to any Camelot before. I had listened to this album, and man, this is another one I'm going to have to get into at some point, because this is a really solid album. This is where we get to the point, going from 7 to 6, where this and up are albums I think are genuinely great. All the other ones I'm like, yeah, those are pretty good, but I don't think I'd put them as like a top tier album by any regards. This album is really solid. It has probably a few too many songs, but the songs that hit really hit. Eventide, One More Flag in the Ground, Opus of the Night. My favorite on the album is Blood Moon. It's got Looking Glass, My Pantheon. So this is another power metal band where at first it kind of seemed a little bit too sing-songy for me. I mean, their name is Camelot. They seem like a happy-go-lucky fairy tale band. But the more I listen to this album and this, dive into some other stuff this band has done, they've actually got some grit to it. At least the later stuff that I've heard. There's some just really catchy, fun, in-your-face stuff. Some weird, more experimental style stuff from time to time, so it's not playing it safe by any means, at least for power metal, and it can really crank out and just super catchy, super fun chorus. This album is really solid. I will definitely be revisiting it in the future, but yeah, moving on to number 5. This is where we get a little weird, because I have got This Heathen Land by Green Lung. This was another that came up when I was doing all my research for, hey, what are some of the best albums this year? This came up, and I was like, okay, I'll check it out, because there's not going to be much, if any, extreme metal that I'm into these days. There's one maybe exception coming up. But I was like, oh yeah, these guys are stoner doom metal, and I like doom. So I checked it out, and I was like, this is really good. These guys are like, I don't know, this album, it gives me vibes of The Wicker Man, at least the older one, not the Nick Cage one, because it's like this weird, I don't know, forest cult type thing. So it's got this kind of creepy, wilderness vibe to it. That blends just super good with the nice doomy riffs. So the vibe of this album is absolutely excellent. And then as far as just the music itself, as far as doom metal album, it's got some nice heavy chuggy riffs to it. The vocals, while a little weird, I ended up really digging them. And it's really consistent in quality. Some of my favorite songs, The Forest Church, excellent way to start it. My favorite is probably Mountain Throne. That one's got a super powerful chorus to it, super awesome. Maxine is great. One for Sorrow. Song of the Stones, nice ballad. Hunters in the Sky. There's a couple that I kind of skip, but overall, really consistent album. a really unique style. I'd never heard of Green Lung before I had listened to this album, but I might be checking out some of their other stuff because this is a really solid album. Moving on to number 4. This is, I would say, the one like semi-extreme album I have on here, and that is Heimdall by Enslaved. I already mentioned I'll be probably doing an Enslaved albums ranking soon, because this album more or less introduced me to Enslaved, and I was like, okay, I could get down with that. At least the latter half of their discography is an absolutely excellent mix of progressive, melodic metal and black metal. And this album, I think, is one of the best Enslaved albums. Not the best, but it's up there in their top 5. This album is, it's dark and it can be eerie and brutal. And then it's also just like peaceful and melodic and gives you, the vibes of, rowing through a lake or a stream or something. And it's Heimdall. They're Viking metal. They give you all these fun forest vibes and mix it with some just blackened, just epicness. Some of my favorite songs from this, Heimdall, the title track, is excellent. I love how it starts like dark and brooding, and then it has the nice bridge, and then it ends with clean vocals. Just beautifully done song. My favorite is probably The Eternal Sea. That's just more my style of song with more of the clean vocals and stuff. Behind the Mirror is a great way to start the album. Forest Dweller is great. Kingdom, like I think I like basically every single song on here to differing degrees, obviously. But this is just a great album. Yeah, so that's Enslaved. Heimdall coming in at number 4. Moving on to number 3, and this one is honestly a shock to me that it didn't come in number 1. It was my number 1 until probably a day ago, and honestly these top 3 I could probably switch them around and I'd still be satisfied with it. But 3, I've got Interludium by Powerwolf. Now this album is my favorite power metal album of the year. I think it's leaps and bounds ahead of basically any other power metal album I listen to. It's probably because Powerwolf and Sabaton are my top 2 for power metal and basically for bands in general. And this was an absolute slam dunk. Every single song not only is good but great, at least the 6 original songs that are in here. What ultimately kept it from being 1 and 2 is just the fact that it is just 6 great songs, and some of their previous albums had like 9 or 10 amazing songs, whereas this is like, it's just 6, so it doesn't have quite enough to propel it up there. But honestly, like, the songs are so good, I could have put it up there. Wolves of War, Altars on Fire, and Sainted by the Storm are absolutely fantastic. Some of my favorite Powerwolf songs of all time. The other 3 are great. My Will Be Done, Wolfborn, and the last one, No Prayer at Midnight. Also really great songs. But I don't know, not quite enough to get it into those top 2, but this album is still great. But yeah, that's Interludium at number 3. It could be number 1, but yeah. Number 2, I've got to go with Life Is But a Dream by Avenged Sevenfold. Now, I know this is a very controversial album. This is one that you either love it or you hate it, and obviously I'm definitely in the love it camp. Now, it's not my favorite Avenged Sevenfold album. I like The Stage more and Nightmare. But man, in terms of like this, tried and true band who has like a very set style of music that everybody loves, and then they come out with this, like, there's a reason most people or a lot of people are like, what is this? This isn't Avenged Sevenfold. This is absolutely crazy. But for me, when I listened to it, it took like a couple listens, and then there's just something so deep and profound and impactful about this album. Something so unique and fresh about it that I just latched onto it and I haven't let go. I listened to it all the way back in summer, and I loved it then, and I came back and I re-listened to it, and I was like, there's no way I like it as much now, and I think I like it even more now. somehow. Just every single song is like a different style of music. It tries to do something different, something weird and wacky, and somehow it all pieces together seamlessly into a narrative, like one album structure as a whole. However you want to describe it, it is just very masterfully, very artistically done. And even on their own, some of these songs are really solid. Probably Nobody is my favorite on the album, which a lot of people didn't really love, but I love the like that weird like electronic thing. I think is great. Other great ones, Game Over is a great way to start the album. Mattel is also excellent. I love the God trilogy near the end. Beautiful Morning is great. Like there are no bad songs in this album, and even the songs that I think are a little weaker, like maybe Cosmic, they still work together when you're listening to it as like a seamless experience. And also Easier is kind of weird. Just like as an album, it works together so well. So while this album isn't for everybody, I'd say that the people who can appreciate it just as kind of its own unique thing and not as like a Avenged Sevenfold album, I guess. I think there's a lot to really get out of this album, and I thought it was absolutely beautiful. But moving on to my number one pick, I have got Sky Void of Stars by Catatonia. Now, I had never even heard of Catatonia a week ago, and now this is like the next band that I have to get into because this album absolutely blew me away. Now, I don't even know what to describe their genre anymore. I know they used to be like doom or death doom, and now like this is just kind of like weird, progressive, almost like cosmic vibe to it. Like, yeah, but the songs in here are like they're barely even metal. They're not really heavy, but they're so well put together. Like the atmosphere that they convey of like feeling like you're almost like floating through space, and there's just like this melancholic somberness to it, but still like the vocals are still so pure and uplifting in a way too, and it's hard to describe. This album is so good. The vocals are amazing. The musicianship across everything is spectacular. And almost every single song is not only good, but amazing. Austerity is such a great way to open it up. The only two from this album I don't love are ones I've seen other people love on this one. That's Colossal Shade and No Beacon to Illuminate Our Fall. Both I like, but I don't love those. But yeah, sorry, quick interjection. Other ones I love, Opaline is so good. Birds, probably like my third favorite, which is still saying a lot because I love all of these. Drab Moon, Author is so good. Impermanence, Scalera, and my favorite from this album is definitely Atrium. That's just, it's such a beautiful album, song. But yes, it's a beautiful album overall. But yeah, I don't know much more to say about this one. It is just absolutely top tier, excellent album, and I can't wait to dive into Catatonia's catalog. If they're anything like this album, I'm sure I'll be very happy. But yeah, that is my list. Those are my top 10 favorite metal albums of 2023. Comment below, what were your favorite albums this year? How did you disagree or agree with my list? Let me know. What are some other videos you'd like to see me do in the future? But yeah, that is all I've got for you. Have a Merry Christmas, and I will see you in the next one.